on the Discovery Channel. Look who's here. You know these faces. Two captains, Josh Harris and Jake Anderson, stars of the show.
Do you still remember Deadliest Catch? One of the most popular TV series that changed the narrative, or perhaps restructured how you view reality shows. Have you ever wondered what happened to cast members who took a break and never returned to your screen? Join us as we reveal the mysteries surrounding Deadliest Catch members that will leave you speechless. Nick McGlashan. Nick McGlashan was an interesting personality on Deadliest Catch. With his hard work and fearless attitude, he instantly brought raw energy to the show. Nick grew up in a fisherman family, so it was obvious he had to start fishing from an early age. But the process wasn't easy. He had to work long hours in the freezing cold to get food onto the table. He started his journey as a deckhand and eventually worked his way up to become the deck boss on the summer bay. He wasn't just trying to be a leader, instead he was trying to help others grow through the process. Nick was known for his kind and humorous personality, handling every pressure situation with sheer calmness. But as the seasons went on, fans noticed something. Nick began appearing less frequently. He began shifting his focus away from work and towards family. Behind the scenes, Nick had been dealing with personal health concerns. After just 5 seasons, Nick quietly stepped away from the show, but it didn't stop there. In 2020, after a normal day, Nick suddenly collapsed onto the floor. He was unresponsive and immediately rushed to the hospital, but it was already too late. Nick McGlashan passed away on December 27, 2020, at just 33 years old. Fans and fellow members were deeply heartbroken by the incident. Even now, Nick's death reminds us that even the strongest people can end their lives in the most unexpected ways. However, his memory still resonates in the hearts of fans who witnessed his pain and fight for survival. Todd Kochutin. Todd Kochutin was never one to hold back. With his eyes focused and hands busy, Todd was a man of skill. For Todd, fishing wasn't just a job, it was a way of life. Interestingly, while many feared the challenges in the ocean, Todd had a deep love for waters, making him conquer dangerous situations at ease. That's what made him stand out from the rest of the members. Todd first appeared on Patricia Lee as a crew member. He wasn't chasing fame or money. Instead, he chose to work harder because he experienced joy throughout the process. But life doesn't always go as expected. In 2021, while working on the deck, Todd was faced with a crab equipment malfunction, leading to a sudden drop of over 800 pounds on his body. The impact was severe and the crew did everything they could to help Todd survive. But unfortunately, Todd took his last breath on February 26, 2021 at 30 years old. His fans missed him. Many had followed his journey from the very beginning. Captain Rip Carlton and the rest of the Patricia Lee crew were left grieving. His time on the show might have been limited, but it showcased his true courage in handling tough jobs. Todd's story is a reminder that crab fishing isn't just hard. Sometimes it can be life-threatening. In the world of Deadliest Catch, many crew members fade away with time, but Todd Kochutin will always be remembered for his true strength and his unwavering resilience to overcome any challenges. But the next person faced something far more devastating. Edgar Hansen. From the very first season, Edgar Hansen made it clear he wasn't there to make friends. Known for his commanding presence and relentless effort to work, Edgar always kept things moving behind the scenes. As the younger brother of Captain Sig Hansen, Edgar worked as the deck boss and engineer on the Northwestern. He was the one responsible for fixing the gear and teaching new deckhands how to work the lines. Edgar always prioritized safety of crew members and earned respect with action. Viewers loved that about him. Edgar was quick with his hands and calm under pressure. When things went wrong, he didn't panic. Instead, he just focused on doing the job right. But in 2018, everything changed. Edgar was involved in a serious legal issue that upset many fans, and it changed the way people looked at him. So Edgar was removed from the show, and the reasons were clear. Fans missed him and began to realize that he was the one who made Northwestern truly feel special. Still, after Edgar's departure, the boat kept moving forward, but his absence was felt. Even now, when fans talk about the early days of Deadliest Catch, Edgar's name always comes up first. Edgar's time on Deadliest Catch was filled with strong moments and deep connection, but in the end it was all about pain and resentment. Josh Harris. Among the stars on Deadliest Catch, Josh Harris was a big case on his own. Josh Harris was born on March 18, 1983 in Seattle, Washington. He was the elder son of Captain Phil Harris, one of the most unforgettable figures on Deadliest Catch. With his tough style and deep love for fishing, he treated his crew like family. So after Phil's sudden passing in 2010, Josh was left with a heavy burden on his shoulders to continue his father's legacy. Josh didn't back down from the challenge. Instead, he stepped onto Cornelia Marie and started his own journey towards the ocean. However, by 2017, Josh was struggling with his mental health. The pressure of leading a boat and dealing with expectations led to his emotional crisis. He tried to keep going, but he looked more tired and the spark in his eyes didn't shine the same way as it used to. Even then, Josh worked to prove that he could handle those grueling situations. Viewers noticed Josh's transformation from an inexperienced crew member into a true leader. Every choice he made seemed to make his father proud, until it wasn't anymore. In 2022, Josh was forced to leave Deadliest Catch due to serious obligations regarding his past behavior. Fans were shocked. Some even tried to defend him. Others were hurt by what they learned about him. But eventually he faced his own consequences. Josh's career has been a balance between both strength and sadness. Viewers missed the tension he brought to the screen. Josh's decline from fame reminds us that carrying a legacy is hard, and sometimes the pressure can be too much. But taking the wrong step can lead to massive consequences. But while Josh found a new rhythm to life, another Deadliest Catch favorite had his own reasons for pulling back. Jake Anderson. Jake Anderson was one of the most beloved members of Deadliest Catch. With his young energy and clear focus, he carved out a unique role on the show. At first, he joined Northwestern under Captain Sig Hansen, where the work standards were really high. But Jake didn't complain. Instead, he worked hard and learned through the process, eventually becoming the captain of Saga. But deep inside, Jake had been facing something far more serious. Even before he joined the show, his sister had tragically passed away, leaving Jack with a wound that never fully healed. However, the tough times didn't stop there. After a normal day, he started feeling chest pain. At first, he brushed it off, but the pain grew worse and led to a massive heart attack. The news hit hard and forced Jake to step away from Deadliest Catch, not because he wanted to, but because he had to. However, Jake slowly began to recover, and it's not just about survival anymore. It's about choosing the purpose of life. Jake's life reminds us that even the strongest among us are fragile. But Jake wasn't the only one who faced a health scare that nearly cost him everything. Sig Hansen. Sig Hansen was one of the earliest stars of Deadliest Catch, and he quickly became a fan favorite. With his strong voice and sharp eyes, he led Northwestern through numerous storms and still prioritized the safety of workers. But safety wasn't always an option in those harsh conditions. In 2016, Sig suffered a heart attack on board, but the crew members managed to retrieve him back to life and seek medical recovery immediately. However, he later suffered another heart attack, but this time it proved to be even more critical. Many thought this could be the end of his life. Even doctors were uncertain of his condition. Still, Sig kept fighting back to stay alive, and eventually he survived. Recovery became his full-time job. Sig might have been too strict on deck and even pushed the crew members beyond their limits. But despite everything, Sig makes sure he doesn't lose a single person in the process. And that pressure never really leaves a captain, especially one who's been doing this for years. Sig Hansen is more than just a captain. He's the epitome of strength, tradition, and a deep loyalty towards his workers. But what about the man who's been at the center of the show from the very beginning? Andy Hillstrand. Andy Hillstrand brought a different kind of energy to Deadliest Catch. Andy was born on September 25, 1963 in Alaska, raised by his father and a stepmother, because by then he had already lost his biological mother. That left him with a void for real affection, one that's been replaced by fishing. He started young and quickly learned to work hard. Andy spent decades in the Bering Sea through the freezing wind and rough waters, while his health faced most of the suffering. But Andy kept showing up. Each year, he always kept the time bandit moving. But success at sea came with a huge cost. Spending so much time away from family made it difficult for Andy to keep a strong relationship with family. He missed important moments and also shared that the distance caused real stress in his personal life. Then there were problems behind the scenes. Over the years, Andy had frequent disagreements with the show's producers. He felt like things were becoming more about drama and less about real fishing. Those clashes created frustration, and for someone like Andy, who valued honesty and focus, it became too much to handle. So he made the hardest decision of his life, choosing to leave Deadliest Catch forever. He shifted his focus towards personal health and spending quality time with family. But in early 2017, Andy's world came to a sudden halt. After years of surviving through the rough conditions, his body began to suffer, so eventually he had to undergo a spine surgery, and that also makes you think how dangerous their work really is. Today, fans remember Andy not just as a great fisherman, but as a person who knew when to walk away. And sometimes the strongest thing you can do is to let go. Mandy Hansen. Mandy Hansen was born on May 15, 1995. She was the youngest daughter of Sig Hansen. Interestingly, Mandy wasn't the real daughter of Sig. Instead, she had been adopted by Sig from his wife's previous marriage. However, Mandy chose to follow her father's legacy. Even Captain Sig Hansen began to train her, hoping that one day she'll take over the responsibility of Northwestern. But the job involved too much risk and was mostly dominated by male figures. Many even doubted her ability to lead the crew. But Mandy was determined to prove them wrong. She learned things quickly and worked harder than most. She didn't just want to help, she wanted to lead from the front, and eventually she earned her place on the deck. It was a proud moment for the Hansen family, and fans were excited to see the next generation step up to face challenges. However, Mandy's life wasn't always smooth sailing. In 2019, Mandy and her husband had been expecting their first child, but unfortunately the baby didn't survive. Mandy's faced a state of emotional crisis, but she didn't reveal much about the incident. Even fans were heartbroken by her situation. After the tragic incident, Mandy disappeared from the show entirely. She took the time to grieve and began healing with the support of her family. Mandy showcased that toughness isn't just about pulling pots or standing in the freezing wind. It's about facing loss and still finding the courage to keep moving. Deadliest Catch has never been just about crab. It's about the people, facing real danger, real pain, and real choices of life or death. Some were lost too soon, and some stepped away on their own. Each name left a mark on the way we look at the show. They've reminded us that even the toughest hearts can slow down. Who's your favorite Deadliest Catch member? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and if you liked the video, don't forget to like and subscribe for further updates, and click the next video on screen now for another interesting story.